Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the weekly edition of Wayfind Marketing Live, where our goal is to encourage and equip business owners and nonprofit leaders to help make marketing easier. And right now, we are in the middle of a series that we are calling Navigating Opportunity. And with this series, what we are doing is interviewing entrepreneurs, nonprofit leaders who, like the rest of us, have had to figure a lot of things out this year. And so I'm really excited about today's guest, Robert Yates, or Robby, as most people call him. He was coming into 2020 guns blazing and with launching an app that's a ton of potential, ton of opportunity. And of course, COVID hits. And so Robby and I are in a Vistage group together. And so I've had the opportunity to kind of be on this journey with him, albeit at a distance. And man, he's just some really cool things have come out of this year, some unexpected opportunities. And so today we're going to have a chance to talk with Robby, hear his story, and he's going to share some things, lessons that he has learned that I know you'll find encouraging. If you have any questions for Robby, go ahead and toss them in the comments. And so anyway, I'm going to go ahead. Let's go and bring Robby in. Robby, happy Friday.
Hey, how's it going, Steve? Happy Friday to you as well.
Good. Well, Robby, I'm excited to have you on Wayfind Marketing Live today. And man, what a year!
Yes.
In some of our social media posts leading up to this, we kind of posed the question or the situation. Imagine that you were launching an app that was focused on making in-person networking events easier, more productive, more worth your time. And then March hits and all the events are getting canceled or moved online. And so that's been your reality. And so, Robby, go ahead and I would love to give you a chance to share a little bit about the app, sort of what led you to start it, and what were you expecting coming into 2020 before everything hit?
Sure. Well, for me, leading into it, like everybody, we didn't think, we would be 2020 would end up like this. Everybody's setting goals or revenue, and we're doing the same thing. At the time, we're still developing the app and had a lot of, high hopes, aspirations, if you will. And of course, then COVID hit, things changed. But when it hit, we realized, hey, you know what? This is the time we can't stop. We got to push forward. And actually, Nick, our team kind of bonded more, if you will, in that manner. And we came together and really helped us collaborate more, come together and realize, hey, what we need to do, how we need to shift. The word of the 2020, is the magical word is pivot, adapt, if you will. So how are we doing that? And so then that really made us sit down and have the heart to heart of where we're going. And we knew the vision we had for the app and the purpose of it. And for those that don't know, it's a way, and we're still getting out when people are slowly networking, but it's shifted more of a way to keep people safe. And quick backstory of how, like you asked me, how did it come about?
Yeah.
I was at a city current breakfast here in Memphis, and it was probably about 150 people in the room.
Now, how long ago was this? Just that'll give a little bit of a time frame.
Sure. It was last summer.
Okay.
And it was actually around June of last year. And I remember sitting there and thinking, who in the world is on the other side of this room I didn't get a chance to meet? And going into an event, sometimes, for me, I would get comfortable, not complacent, but comfortable. I'd see a familiar face. I'm in a sea of 150 people. I don't know who to talk to. So I see a familiar face, talk to them, and I realize, man, I missed an opportunity. I didn't connect with somebody I needed to help their business or help my business. So how can I bridge that gap? How can I connect? Who was who in the room, and how can I find out? So after that event, that evening after work, I went through and was trying to find an app, another tool to the arsenal, if you will, to help me out. I was in sales, and there wasn't anything that really fit the mold. So I thought, well, I'm networking. So let's see who I know in my network that can help me kind of get this going. Now, mind you, I am not an IT guy. I'm not. I don't code. I can't. I mean, well, I say I can't. I can, but it's going to take me a while to learn it. And then by the time I learn it, everything's light years ahead of me. So I thought, let me see if we can, build a solid team around to make this happen. So that's where it came into play, and just through networking, meeting the right individuals, and you knock on enough doors and shout enough on the rooftop, somebody's going to hear you, and that's how it was with me.
Well, and so one of the things that is really fascinating about your story is what you just said, and that's you weren't a business owner, you were a salesperson, and I don't know, have you had plans before? I mean, had the thought of launching your own business, your own company, let alone an app, had that ever crossed your mind before last summer?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said no. I mean, it's always growing through my career. I mean, I have no problem telling people I'm 43. So throughout, my journey in life and being a veteran, and I've always had something when I've been in different organizations, you kind of take little snippets from each leader and realize, hey, this works, this isn't. And then you're there and I feel like a lot of people think, well, at least I was, man, I think if we did this or made a shift, we can actually improve upon our productivity. And how can we do that? So it was always kind of looming in the back, if you will. And then when I went to a networking event, and just is the best way I can describe it, and the only way it makes sense to me, and having the faith that I have, I'm not trying to change people's religion out there, but I just feel like, God opened the doors. It's like, hey, here's an opportunity. What are you going to do with it? And how are you going to go forth? And with that, maybe think, hey, this is an opportunity here to really do something to impact others and help them out. And in turn, what can we do to give back? And so there's some other things we're going to do for giving back to a nonprofit here in Memphis. And as we grow across the nation, what we're sticking to true is stick with and giving back to Children's Hospital in each state. Okay. We're not there yet. We'll get there. So it's a lot to unpack and unfold, but I just want to do that. It was given to me, so I need to give back.
So over the last, say, 15, 18 months, you went from being a salesperson at a networking event, and you recognize, hey, there's got to be a better way to connect with people at these bigger events. And so you realize there's nothing out there that fits that solution that you were looking for. So you build this team of developers. I know you have a CTO, you got some investors, and you launch. And so coming into 2020, what was the original plan coming into this year in terms of when were you planning to launch? What was the game plan when everything was normal?
Yeah, well, when it was normal, the goal was still launch in August. Okay. And when COVID happened, we still stuck to that because we realized now's not the time, even though the world stopped temporarily. I feel like March, I feel like 4 years. I feel like it just stopped on a dime. Yeah. And we realized, hey, we can't let our foot off the accelerator. We're going to come out of this pandemic. There's going to be, on the other side of this, but we have to be ready. If we stop now and push pause on life and our business and what we're doing, then when it's time to ramp it back up, we're going to be way behind the 8 ball. We're going to be so far behind that we're going to miss the opportunity. So we realize now's the time, and it's allowing us to test. Now, which has been great because here in Memphis, there are some small groups that I'm in. One, for example, is the Germantown Chamber of Commerce, just outside of Memphis. Great organization. Everybody there's phenomenal. A lot of support there, and they're allowing us to test the app with what they're doing. And so we're getting that feedback and tweaking it. And I go back to the team and say, hey, this is working. This is not working. And I can't say enough about the team itself. They get on it instantly. They work. And it's just, that's been a blessing in itself. And then, so it's a way also that we realize, is it going to be to the scale we want at the gate? No, but it's actually kind of helped us really kind of laser focus more of what we're doing and our approach. And with that, it allows people too, when they get out, because they're going to want to stay safe. And so quick, like rundown, like with the app, what it is itself is, let's think of it like as a virtual Rolodex. It's a way you're keeping all your contacts sorted and stored alphabetically by industry. But the beautiful part about that is once you go to an event, or even though it's a small venue right now with COVID, it's instantly going to work for you right before you enter the room. And sometimes you walk into a place, be it 10 people or 20, depends on, where you are right now within the state. You're making a connection before you get a chance to meet that person, and allows you to follow up with that individual afterwards on another, more private, intimate setting over coffee or lunch, Zoom, if you will. So it would help bridge that gap, so that way you're not sitting there wondering, okay, I'm seeing, 10 faces or 20 faces. I know half. Who are the other 10? And how can you make that connection? You're not missing that opportunity.
Sure. It creates an opportunity to figure out who some of the people are that maybe you didn't get to meet. Mm-hmm. And I know a variety of different things that the app will do, a couple of different options with it, but to help facilitate that follow-up conversation.
Yeah.
So when all of this happened, so like you said, you guys were planning to launch in August, you stuck with that time frame. What adjustments have you guys made, be it to the app itself or to your strategy, because of the slowdown on the in-person events?
Yeah, great question. For us, what we did, we made some slight modifications on how to make that connection I alluded to earlier before you walk into a room. So essentially, you can turn the app on, turn your phone off, or put your phone on silent, if you will. Put it in your pocket, purse, instead of actually having to be in the app at the exact same moment. So if you and I were in an event, I never met you before, or a small luncheon or venue, whatever's COVID acceptable, if you will, then when you're there, we don't have to be on our phone. We could just have it in our pocket, and we're still able to make that connection with it. So that's one aspect. Another is really, man, I feel like like I said before, if we stopped or let our foot off the accelerator, then we'll be behind the 8 ball. So I have continued to go out kind of old school method, if you will, knocking on doors, talking to people, sending emails, going to a venue when I can. And through that and through networking, just like we all do, you'll be surprised at how doors just start opening up. And through a series of events, things have happened. I have a couple articles that are going to be written about the app around here in Memphis, which is exciting.
Yeah,
being able to do this. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen. So if we sit back idle on the sidelines and watch the game unfold before us, then we're missing the game. So we decided, hey, let's jump in all in and be participants.
Absolutely. Now, somewhere in the middle of all of this, in addition to launching an app, you've launched a podcast.
Yeah.
And you've had some fantastic guests. That in and of itself is a great story. So how have you, where did that idea come from? How does that fit into everything else that you're doing?
It all kind of ties in together, and kind of where they really coincide with one another, because when COVID happened, I thought, okay, we're still sticking to launch in August. And we did in August, the iPhone. Android was launched actually just last month, towards the end of October, because we did Apple first and then kind of tweaked it, modified it. But to your point for the podcast, since how we're talking to business professionals, that's the whole premise of the podcast itself. We realized, hey, you know what? There's an opportunity there to another way to extend marketing, if you will. And Steve, I'll be lying if I didn't say it. The ultimate goal and vision is to have this app, the way I see it, and the passion we have behind it, is to have this thing across the globe, because they're BNI, for those that don't know, and it's Business Networking International. Yeah. That's across the globe. Chamber of Commerce across the globe. Yeah. People are networking everywhere. They're wanting to do that to maximize their business and results, because we can't ascend Everest by ourselves. We need a team to ascend and climb Everest. So we realized, hey, you know what? We can use this podcast and a platform to tap into other regions of the globe that we never thought before. So it just became an extension of our networking. And so, eventually kind of build those friendships across the pond, if you will. A couple of guys I've met recently. I could go through a list, but two to come out standing of mind is a couple of guys in the UK, Josh Lloyd and Amon Birdie. Great guys. They actually have a couple of companies in the UK, phenomenal guys. They've actually helped me out brainstorm ideas for the app. And I wouldn't have met them if I hadn't started the podcast. So it's just been it's crazy how God, if you will, has opened doors in front of me that I never even thought were possible.
Well, I know because I've heard you share your stories of some of the people who you've interviewed. If I'm remembering it, and of course you mentioned the UK. If I remember, I think you had somebody maybe from New Zealand, somebody from India. So that's, and
Yeah.
I think that just goes to show it's a good reminder. So much of business, even in a digital world, is still happening through face to face, and people want that.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
Oh, you mentioned New Zealand. I was thinking about Sam Kamani. He was somebody I was introduced to through LinkedIn, and that really, meeting Sam really turned the light bulb on of, hey, you know what? Like, I'm talking to somebody halfway around the world. Let's really open up the playbook and see what's out there. Who can we talk to? And we've had some fascinating guests all across here in the U.S. I mean, the UK, Ireland, India. I mean, Australia. I mean, it's just unbelievable guests. And there people have such passion they're pouring into their business. And honestly, I'm kind of using it as like a dose of medicine for me. I get off the podcast, I'm amped up, and I'm ready to get back after it. And Sam and I, we still talk back and forth. And he was on the podcast, I'd say probably like 4 or 5 months ago. And we still, talk back and we still refer stuff to each other. We're bouncing ideas, and he's got a great company down there in New Zealand. So, and he started a podcast as well. So it's interesting. That's one of the things that COVID actually allowed us to do is start this podcast and open up our reach, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and is in a similar type scenario, having personally been able to talk with a number of business owners and leaders, as you have, there's a lot of encouragement in hearing other people's stories. And one of the things that I've heard consistently, and I've seen, in your experience, it's been part of our experience as well, is whether it was because there was more time available because certain things were slowing down, or whether it was a higher sense of urgency, so many people have started new things. Maybe things that they had talked about, things they had thought about, but now either, again, it felt like it was something that was more urgent to stay visible, to stay in front of people. For others, it was just, there's time. And so as you think about where you guys are now, so you mentioned it's live, you're testing this here locally in Memphis with some different groups. What's the plan moving forward? What do you anticipate? What's your timeline look like over the next 3 to 6 months?
Yeah, great question. For one, like I mentioned too, the couple of articles are coming up. I'm looking forward to being in those magazines. But another is I mentioned earlier about the Germantown Chamber here. They're a phenomenal group. They have a lot of support for what I'm doing and actually for what they're doing, because it really could benefit. It's a mutual benefit for both, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be speaking during that in January. So that's exciting, gearing up for that. And that's where we're doing a ton of testing now to make sure when we're there in front of that venue that everything's well. But if we have a hiccup, hey, we have a hiccup and we learn from it and how to adjust on the fly. Like I said, several minutes ago, the team is fantastic to make those adjustments. But going forward, we have things in place where we want to be, Q1, Q2, and how we want to adapt and how we want to really grow and tap in to help the market out to really help people out. Because I have a feeling COVID is not going to go away, about April of next year, as much as we all would love it to happen. But we have things in place where we can to make that happen. I can't, as much as I was on the tip of my tongue to say all the like phase 2, 3, if you will. I don't want to give away all our secrets right now, but we definitely have stuff that's on the back burner that we're excited to bring to the forefront. Yeah,
absolutely. You and I were talking about this a little bit before launching, turning this on live today, and we were talking about the ups and downs in the life of an entrepreneur, and you've been in. I mean, being an entrepreneur, leading an organization is hard enough in a normal year, and anybody that's in this type of a role has probably seen the little cartoon where it shows, a day in the life of an entrepreneur and sort of the ups and the downs, the peaks and the valleys. literally within just a few minutes, it could be the best thing in the world. And a few minutes later, you're ready to just torch the whole thing and go back to, a corporate job kind of thing. So what have you been doing this year to sort of keep yourself moving forward, to keep yourself motivated on those days where you're like, this sucks?
Yeah, and you're right. There are those days that happens. But a moment when it happens, as the best way I can describe it, it's kind of like something within, like a fire, just kind of, maybe it's God shaking me. Hey, wake up. Like you've got to go forward. This is something happening. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the love and support that I also have from my wife. Katie's been phenomenal through this process. And so, yeah, it's still trying through like this process. It's not an easy one, but the old saying goes, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So for me, I rely on faith. I rely on, this drive that I feel in here, that I see the need the benefit that's going to happen. And so we still have that vision and the focus on that. And also I draw on past experience because yes, I'm creating an app, something I've never done before in my life. But then I look back and I'm like, okay, well, when I was in the Coast Guard, I was on this 3-masted sailing vessel. It has 23 sails. We're sailing around the world. And here I am from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm out in the middle of the Atlantic. And that right there forced me to do things I've never done before, far out my comfort zone, and sail and sales navigation. I mean, the list goes on and on, stuff I was doing. And then being a corpsman in the Coast Guard and then studying nuclear medicine. I mean, if you'd have met me in my 20s and I told you, hey, I'm going to study nuclear medicine, you said, there's no way, man. That's not you. And so I just look through like what I've done in my past and I draw from that. And I lean in the word and prayer and scripture and talk to my wife. And so I kind of put all that into the bowl, if you will, of self-motivation to keep me going. Because like I said a while ago, I keep using an analogy, keep thinking of like, you can't ascend Everest by yourself and you need a team around you. And so I got, God on my side. I got a beautiful wife. She loves me, supports me, great collaborator. A lot of things that we're doing come from her, dream, if you will, and aspirations for what we're doing. So, like I said, I can't leave her out. The team we have, so it's not a one-man show. It's the CTO. I mean, when this guy came on board, he just took us to another stratosphere in what we're doing, and that is key to like where we are. I mean, going through Vistage, getting to know the Vistage group, the app created group that I'm in, like I mentioned, Josh and Amani, yourself, Don Farrell. I mean, I can go on and on the list of people that's helped collaborate. John Salika, I can't leave him out. I mean, yeah. Trey Stafford, Al De Silva. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Everybody that's there, Shay Piffley. I mean, I feel bad if I left somebody out, but I could not be in this seat without the list of people that I've named. And of course, God being first to keep things moving and going. And that helps lift me up and keeps me pushing and keep going. And the guests on the podcast. I mean, I can go on and on, like the fire that I get every day. So it's just fun, man. But there are times I'm smashing my head against the wall, like, what am I doing? Then I go, okay, like, you know what you're doing. Keep going, keep going.
Well, for anybody who's met you or even just watching this, or if they're listening to this on the podcast, I don't think anybody can accuse you of not having passion. And it's something that I think is, and it's consistent, because the questions that I'm asking you are effectively the same questions that I ask other guests that we've had on here. And there's a consistency in terms of of what people share. And that is, one, is going to be hard. It is going to be difficult. You're going to run into walls. And whether we're in a pandemic or whether we're in whatever a normal year is, it's going to be hard. But I think the people that keep moving forward, one, as you've mentioned, faith. And, that's, you and I have that in common. I do believe that God has created us, put us here for a purpose. And that is, sometimes that's what keeps me moving forward. So having that faith, that bigger reason to keep keeping on. The other is community. It's having this network of people who are there. And so you mentioned your wife. So having family, having peers, being an entrepreneur is a lonely thing. And so being in a group like Vistage or other groups that you mentioned, I think that's fantastic. And that's just a good, I felt like that was important to pause there, because for anybody that's thinking about starting something, has started something, or maybe it's somebody that's been running a business for 10 years. And it's just that reminder sometimes that there are other people having the same challenges. So Robby, just as we start to wrap up, what would you say, and maybe it's something you've already said, but you just want to kind of restate it. What would you say to that business owner or that nonprofit leader who's out there, who's struggling, who's, in the middle of all this other stuff that we're in the middle of, and maybe just feeling discouraged today? What would you tell them to try to lift them and to help them keep moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's easy to kind of look at it, like through muddy water, if you will. And then there's so much going on. If you start letting your mind, sometimes I admit I'll get up at 2:30 in the morning. My mind's just ticking, racing. I've got to do X, Y, Z. I go from A to Z and a Z to A, and what's happening. So those that are going through that and feel like it's going to be difficult or tough, and they don't know how, I say just pick one thing. Pick one thing, accomplish that one thing that you want to do for that day. I know they probably heard it before. Maybe it's, you know what, I got to open the word, read that. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe prayer. If that's not your thing, that's completely okay. Then find one thing. And then I heard this the other day, and I love this. And it said, right before you go to sleep, if there's 3 things that you didn't get accomplished today, then take a sticky note, write whatever they are, put it on your mirror in the bathroom. Or maybe it's one thing. And then when you wake up tomorrow, you're brushing your teeth, you'll see that list of 1 to 3 things that you didn't accomplish the day before. Start your day out, accomplish those things, and then dive into your task. Because next thing you know, Monday hits, Friday. Sometimes for me, I feel like I'll go to sleep, I'll wake up Monday morning, and bam, it's Friday in no time. So if you let those tasks build and build and build, so you're looking at 3 times 5, so you look at 15. So you got 15 tasks on Friday that you didn't get accomplished. But if you accomplish each day what you missed the day before, then you kind of stay ahead of it and stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Well, and I like that idea too of one thing. And that's something even this week. And there's a book called The One Thing, which is a great book. But this week is that same reminder that, I need to focus on one thing at a time. And instead of trying to think of the 28 things that need to get done. So that's a great encouragement, Robby. Now, and so just Jasmine, if you're still watching, she's been asking some questions just about the links to the app. So the links to the apps are in the comments. Jasmine just comments, I appreciate you guys sharing. Hope you have a successful and positive in a good way the rest of the year in 2021. Jasmine, same to you. Thank you for tuning in.
It's actually Yasmin knew he was actually on the podcast.
Yasmin. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, man, I completely butchered that. So
I did the same thing. I would have butchered it now, but I just know it because I had him on the podcast and I said, please pronounce your name because I will mess it up. So
yes, thank you for setting me straight there. Yasmin, my apologies. Thank you for watching, in spite of the fact that I just absolutely mispronunciated your name.
He's a great guy. He'll take it in stride. It's okay.
But I want to make sure that folks know how to get in contact with you. And so I'm going to put this up on the screen. First is the app. You can go to the Apple App Store. You go to Google Play App Store and search for the Follow app. You can go, it's up on the screen right now. You can go to thefollowapp.co, not .com, .co. You can download it from there. And it's also in the comments. We'll have it in the show notes. And also, if you want to catch Robby's podcast, which I highly encourage you to do, you can find it on the different podcast platforms. Search for Where the Fortune Is. You can also go to wherethefortuneis.com. And so that is up on the screen. And Robby, thank you so much for being here. I think you're a great example of somebody that has adjusted and man, just positive outlook. And I'm excited to see what happens and look forward to using the app at upcoming networking events. And so we will have we'll have this on our podcast, and so we'll have this out over the weekend, so you can listen to it if you want to go back to it, or maybe if you catch this if you're not watching today, you can catch this on the podcast. So thanks everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. Robby, thanks again for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I greatly appreciate the time and the opportunity. As always, Steve, it's good seeing you and talking to you.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend, everybody.
All right.